Welcome to the GMS Magazine podcast. This is a podcast all about role-playing games, board games, and the people who make them. Sometimes also the people who play them. I am Paco Garcia, your host, and this is your immobile co-host.
This is your mobile co-host, Chris Diaz from Diaz Ex Machina.
You need to practice your immobilization technique.
There was a very famous television show from, I guess, I want to say the mid 70s called Police Squad. Now, Police Squad was a satire. It was visual jokes and puns, and they were so frantic that they were on top of each other. But the problem is that most people kind of semi-watch television. They don't sit there and watch every single frame to catch all the sight gags. So a lot of people didn't watch the show, and it eventually failed after one season. It came back as a hugely successful series of movies called The Naked Gun. Leslie Nielsen was the lead in both the TV series and the movie. I think it's a hilarious show that you can now watch on numerous platforms. But the one signature gag, a lot of TV shows in the past, when the show would end, they would freeze frame. Like they would have some kind of freeze frame and then they'd have the credits. This was a staple in the 60s and 70s. But Police Squad decided to spoof it. So when they would freeze frame, the credits would roll, it was just the actors staying still. And so sometimes some guy's pouring coffee and the coffee is pouring, it's overflowing, and it's falling everywhere. Sometimes, like, there was a monkey in a scene. Of course, the monkey doesn't stay still, so it's moving around, and all the other actors are still frozen in place. One was a criminal was incarcerated in the image, and so he decided not to stay still and tried to escape, but he couldn't because everyone was frozen and blocking his way of getting out. Like, everyone was different, but it was just hilarious because you can easily tell that they are just holding still. Anyway, but yes.
Okay, so we have today an awful lot of things to talk about. We are going to talk about Thingspan announcement. You have a review for the Freedom thingy from Greater from Greater Than Games. We have to talk about two controversies, in fact, that are taking place at this very moment that we're recording on the 20th of January 2025, an absolutely horrific day for my friends in the United States. I am so sorry for you. I see you, I love you, and please stay strong the next 4 years. Wow, what 4 years we're going to have ahead of us. But
the damage is, like I said, it's the damage is not the one thing I'll warn people is that the damage is going to be larger but more unpredictable. Anything you can think that you think is going to happen probably won't, and it'll probably be something worse that you weren't expecting. I posted a proverb today that said, when a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become a king, the palace becomes a circus.
True, but let's not, wait a second, come on up. Sorry, I was telling my dog to come up because he was looking forward to being with Daddy. Come on, sit down.
Okay.
Oh, sit. Good boy. See, look at that. Isn't that the super cute? If you're not watching, you should be watching the show because there's a little cute doggy. And I love him so much. And now that he's been on camera, he's going to go all shy and go away. See? Anyway, okay, so let's begin with this Thingspan announcement.
Yeah, so obviously, my guess quite straightforward is that regardless of whether or not Wormspan was successful or not, they are moving ahead with other variations. And I find it interesting, and I don't want to make accusations, but I am willing to state almost with 100% certainty, when we interviewed Jamie Sagmeyer, we talked about Wormspan, and I discussed with him the other types of variations of Wingspan than he could play. He knew perfectly well that Thingspan was being developed because considering the turnaround time, he was right in front of us, and I was telling him about the other variations of the Wingspan formula, and he could not say. I could tell there was a part of him that wanted to say, "Oh yeah, we have another game called Thingspan," but I can't tell you that yet. So I'm going to send out an email to Jamie. Hey, you know, we've been on the program twice. Come on the third. I'm gonna say it's like you sat right in front of us, and I told you that there could be other versions of Wingspan, and you knew you had Finspan ready to go.
Well, you know what?
So yeah.
As somebody who had to, you know, as a psychotherapist, confidentiality is something that I take to heart, and I take it incredibly seriously. That only makes me feel even more respect for Jamie, because I know what it is to know something that you're desperate to tell everyone, and not be able to say a word.
I'm gonna rewatch the interview, and I want to see. I want to check for micro expressions, and then ask him. All right, can you tell us what the next one's going to be? I am waiting. I'm gonna make a prediction. Okay, so we've had dragons, we've had birds, and we've had fish. There's 2 options left. One, he can do, you know, he's done dragons, which are still birds. He's done fish, and for people who don't know, the big shtick with this one is that instead of going left to right with both Wingspan and Wormspan, you go top to bottom, and as you go further down, it gets darker because you're going deeper and deeper into the sea. From my appearance, it looks like there are proportionally more mechanics than we see in Wormspan. I came out and said I thought Wormspan was a better game than Wingspan, so I'm interested in seeing what he does with Finspan. My guess, and once again, if you go to his video, because he has now several videos talking about the new mechanics to expect, there are some new ideas that have been placed in there. I think that I can't see him doing, because when you go to land creatures, it would be very tricky. I mean, he's got the caves with the dragons, so I don't think he's going to replicate the caves for subterranean animals. And he's not doing birds. And I mean, you can do forest, but what I think he's going to do, or I think, and I'm going to mention this to him, I'm going to predict it, that he might be going with space
or dinosaurs.
Well, the thing is that he's kind of got the Wingspan and the Wormspan. The Wormspan got the dragons. I don't know if it feels like he would be repeating himself. Finspan, Wingspan, very different. Wormspan, slightly similar, but fictional, fictitious, which is nice. And you add the caves in there. I think if he does something that deals with the space program, with all the space probes and so forth, the only issue is whether or not there would be enough cards. I can think of easily 100 to 150 unmanned missions that have gone out into deep space, but whether or not there is enough to really facilitate. But there's always been an educational aspect to it. Wingspan, Finspan, and dealing with every single unmanned space probe from Mariner and the original and Sputnik all the way to the recent solar probes. Yeah, there are hundreds and hundreds. Okay. Whether or not he can make that into a game, I'm gonna invite him, and I'm gonna say that if he hasn't thought of it, I think that's gonna be his next idea.
Okay, I'm going to give another idea that could also work very, very well indeed, and it could be a 3 sort of idea. It could come in 3 parts, 3 different games. Jamie, I'm giving you 3 ideas. I expect credit. Yeah. One is physics span, because doing it with physics could...
Oh, physics science.
Yes. Well, but I am going further than just science. No. Science is just for, 3rd graders. No, this is specialized science. So we could do physics span, so just for physics, biospan, just for biology, and chemispan for chemistry. Now there could be 3 very, very cool games. But if he ever dares doing math span, I will feel immense respect for him, but I will hate him forever because I have dyscalculia and I get really, I don't get along with maths. So math span, no. The other 3, just please.
He could even... Now, they have played with this before in several other mechanics, but there is a idea that he could go with a science span and all the cards being famous scientists throughout history, right? How that would work with that model remains to be seen. But I like the way you think.
But he's very good. He's kind of, he's not just handsome, he's a genius. So, hey, he can make it work. So, okay, so
I will reach out to him, by the way. I'll see. Let's talk about FinSpan.
Yes.
Let's talk about Wormspan and talk about the future of the Span franchise.
Yes. And tell him to listen to this podcast and see if we are on the right track for the next game. Even though he won't be able to tell us, but we will know. We will know. So, okay, so that's announcement done, which is very good. Now, let's talk about the two topics, because we had two topics that I bring and you had a review. Do we have anything else?
Yes. Well, before we move on to the next segment, I'm going to do one more announcement.
Okay.
Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, is releasing a new supplement called Aether Drift. It's coming out in mid-February. It's coming out on digital and physical or on the same day, February 15th, I do believe. And Aether Drift is one of the first times I've seen. I don't know if they're going to be greatly adjusting how the game is played, but it in setting is a multi-world racing tournament. So it'll be really interesting how they're going to be adjusting, or if it's just the theme of the cards. But Aether Drift got released. I'm not a big Magic the Gathering person, but I thought what the thing was interesting, which is the reason why I bring it up, is the advertisements has an Akira Drift. Now, an Akira Drift, for those people, also known as the Akira Slide, I would say safely, it is the single most famous anime meme in the history of Japanese animation.
Okay.
Do you know what the Akira Slide is?
I know Akira because I've watched the film when it came out. I haven't watched it since, which I know that makes me a really bad person. So I'm going to say...
It also shows how old we are, because I also saw it, the original streamlined dub. By the way, on a side, Akira is coming out on 4K remastered.
I will go to the
only
cinema
a few weeks, actually. Yeah,
so I'm looking. Okay, so I don't know, what is it?
The Akira Slide is a very famous scene where Kaneda is in his bike, and you're right, he is sliding, or the camera shot, he is sliding, he is perpendicular to the camera, he is sliding away from the camera. It is a very famous, to the point that dozens and dozens of animes have replicated that scene in their own setting. It has also been seen even in American movies. There was a science fiction horror film called Nope, which is actually quite a good movie that Jordan Peele came out. No, is it Jordan Peele? Yeah, came out with a couple of years ago. Not the film that you're expecting. It's got wonderful commentary about celebrity stardom and so forth, and the pains of young celebrities. And there's also a wonderful angle regarding racism in Hollywood, but it's wrapped in this space alien horror story with twists that you don't see coming. But at one point, the main character has an Akira slide, and people are just like, wow, Jordan Peele did an Akira slide. And he's just like, yes, I did. I absolutely love Akira. Okay. But the Aether Drift, the promotional poster, is literally one of the characters doing an Akira slide. And of course, the comments range from people calling it a blatant ripoff to some people saying it's a tip of the hat. It's okay to do that. And I want to reiterate to people that think that because of the tribalism in every aspect of humanity, people get really obsessively protective over something that they love. And they don't realize that that thing you love could be inspired by something else, right? It can, and it's a chain. It was probably inspired by something else, and it'll probably inspire something else in the future. You know, and I have some situations. I've had my products accused of stealing somebody else, and I was just like, nope, that was borrowed from this, and that borrowed it from this. I mentioned the fact that I had the image of one of my characters surrounded by all these guns. People said I was ripping outgunned. I said, nope, we were all ripping off John Wick, and John Wick ripped off a film from the 1930s. Like, please do your research. So I'm happy to say the vast majority of the people that are in the comments are defending their use of the Akira slide, but there are some people that are very tribal that believe that Wizard of the Coast is stealing the Akira slide. Like, no, it's a tip of the hat. It's an homage. They know what they're doing. And I don't have an issue with it. So that's my official take. But please, absolutely, more Akira slides. I love it when obscure references that only anime fans love get callback. So that was my other announcement. Magic Aether Drift.
Good. Now I have something else I would like to do, and it's to ask people for some ideas and advice. Behind me is my home studio. Okay, this is my home studio with a few things. I have a couple of armchairs in here that I am going to sell. I want to redecorate this so it becomes a proper, slightly more attractive studio. So what I would like people to do is give me ideas, please, because I other than bringing things out, on the back, as in a couple of more cabinets, I don't know what else to do. I have sold my 3D printer because it was huge and I wasn't going to give it some use. So I am going to have in a couple of months a smaller one that I want to have in this room also. So I would like people to, please help me make this space a really cool space for podcasting and streaming, because it would be great. And I would love to be able to say that this is not just my space, it's the space of the people who watch and listen to our podcast. So please let me know. Give me ideas, who do you see the spaces of that you like? What would you like to see in the background? Other than my dog has to stay. But other than that, what would you like to see? Now, having said that, we have two controversies that are taking place right now.
Did you want to do a pause for part 2? Or did you just want to move right into it?